Hey, so I have just put my son down for a nap and now we are going to dive into The Artist's Way Week 8, recovering a sense of strength, I think. Okay, so it is week 8. I actually recorded this yesterday, but the sound didn't work. So we are recording again, and this week, even though it's called Recovering a Sense of Strength, what I have really taken away with it is kind of about tapping into that idea of the connection between the big goal, that thing that we maybe want, and the momentum behind it. And I felt the last few weeks as I'm getting into the kind of like completing that second third of this process, that I actually am slowly building momentum. I am seeing myself more able to take a little bit of time for myself, of prioritizing creative work, of journaling, of the space that I need to just not do very much. And that's been really lovely to see some positive momentum from that. You know, even just the act of being like, I'm gonna go, even if it's for 40 minutes or half an hour, and go and sit in a cafe and read, because taking that half an hour benefits me so much, even if it's a short amount of time, that it's still worth doing. And I think that's been a really useful reflection to see that I don't think without doing this process that maybe I would have pushed myself a little bit to be like, no, just think about what you really need, pay attention to what you really need, and then try and take a small action based on it. And I think this week really pushes us even more in that direction. Julia Cameron talks about this thing called filling the form. So I think this is a super useful concept because it can apply to our creative practice 100%, but it can also apply to that sense of nourishment, of healing, the things that we need, in the idea that actually to feel like we've moved ourselves forwards, like we nourish ourselves, like we get that, maybe that fitness or that health or that energy or that project or that sense of space back, all comes through the daily actions that we do. It's those small creative acts. It is the steps that we take to get to the thing. It's not the thing in and of itself. And she calls out a lot that with art, that actually our ego wants the thing to be finished. Our ego wants the painting on the wall, or the book to be sent to, you know, a publisher or an agent, or, you know, the dance to be danced or choreographed, or that music to be finished and ready to upload to Spotify or whatever. But the artist, the creative, wants to do it, wants to be writing, wants to be singing, wants to be dancing, wants to be painting, wants to be creating. It doesn't care about the end product in quite the same way. That's kind of the ego's part. And yes, I think we need both of those elements. But actually, when we look at the thing that we're really trying to get to is the creating, that is the doing. And we can find that in this idea of just doing the next step that day. Like, what is the next thing? And I think it's easier when you don't have responsibilities of children in your life, or other people who require you to maybe shift your schedule and do things on their time, and, you know, maybe not be responsive to your needs in the moment that you have them. Then it can feel really difficult to, how do you get into this routine of, hey, I'm going to write 3 pages every day because that's what it's going to take for me to finish this novel. That's difficult to do. But here it struck me on something that I actually got from the world of parenting, was that maybe instead of trying to get this routine of the same thing, that we search for a rhythm, right? And I think, you know, they talk a lot, like my son hasn't been the best sleeper, and they talk a lot about having a rhythm for them, because I really struggled and railed against this idea of routine, where we would wake up at exactly the same time, where we would have lunch at exactly the same time, where we'd do everything on these kind of marked timetable schedules, because it doesn't work with me, it doesn't work with my personality or the way that I live my life. But a rhythm does. I can do the same things roughly in the same order, and the times can switch about a little bit depending on the needs of the day and the moment, but they all kind of follow a flow, and the bedtime follows a rhythm. It doesn't necessarily start at the same time every night, and it doesn't necessarily finish at the same time every night, but it does the same things. And make space for them. Sometimes we'll read loads of books. Sometimes we'll read just one book. Sometimes we'll barely open the cover of the book before my son is like, you know what? I'm sleeping now. I don't want this. And other times he'll be grabbing books from the shelf, and I'll have to be like, okay, I think 5 is enough books. Like, let's let's stop book time now. And I think it can be like that with this creative practice, that maybe one day we're writing 3 pages or 5 pages, and the next day we write 3 sentences. The point is that we show up in the moment that we can and just take the next step forward, and the step that fits that day, right? And so maybe it's about just finding where in the rhythm of your day you can make that a little bit of time for creative practice. And maybe it's first thing in the morning, or maybe it's at lunchtime or during a nap, or it's when your partner or your parents or your babysitter or friend or somebody comes over to help watch your child for a little bit of time, or maybe when it's your child sleeping at nighttime, and you can just be like, okay, I'm going to create that moment for myself and just kind of do the next thing and not worry about the end product, not worry about where I'm going to, because I think that can feel overwhelming, and not worry about whether it's good or not. The job isn't to critique, the job in that moment is to do. And I think if we can find ourselves in that rhythm, then maybe we actually have a chance of creating that momentum that means that at some point we can take a step away and have a bigger slot of time, and then maybe review what we're doing and course correct or reshape, or just take things further, or be excited by the amount of work that we've done and the next steps that we can take with it. So I've really taken away this idea of kind of filling in the form and doing the next kind of right action, I guess is the way she says it. And there is this lovely quote, which I love: creativity requires activity, and work begets work. Small actions lead us to larger movements in our creative lives. And I think that's the key here, is like, what are the small actions? What are the things that's going to make the difference in your creative movement forward, but maybe also in the movement forward for yourself? So this week I am mostly going to concentrate on what kind of small actions I want to take towards what project I'm kind of working on and what that thing is going to look like. And then the other tasks that she kind of throws in is this idea of a goal search. And this is to kind of really get in touch with what that big dream is, what that big goal is. And I actually started doing this today, and I found it really difficult. So I don't know how easy this one is going to be for me this week. And I would love to hear if you find that you have something that jumps out straight away, or this feels kind of muddy and confused for you as well. But the steps to this goal search are to name the dream, what it is, to name the concrete goal that signals that you've been successful in that. So for example, she says, somebody's goal might be an actress, and one person might have that goal and their signal of success is to have an article in a magazine about them, and another one might have a signal of success that is to like have a review of a play that they've done on Broadway, for example. And those two careers, those two actresses, have different North Stars. They both want to be actresses, but they're kind of taking in slightly different directions, right? And I think that is what she's trying to get to, is not only what do you want to do, but kind of how do you want to go about it? What's the real true north that's going to make you feel like you've accomplished that thing? And then she has a couple more questions. In a perfect world, where would you like to be in 5 years in relation to your dream and your true north? In the world we inhabit now, what action can you take to move you this closer to that goal? And then what action can you take this month, this week, this day, right now to move you in that direction? And I think it's really useful to tap into that. She also asks you to list the dream, the true north, and then select a role model for it. And I think sometimes this can be easier than others, but having that idea of it could look like this is really useful. I don't know how I'm going to find this, to be honest. I feel a little bit separate from it, but actually maybe I can make it smaller. Even just talking about it now, maybe I'm thinking, okay, well, instead of answering that in a perfect world I would secretly love to be, I can just answer like, what in a perfect world right now, what would I create? What would that look like? But we'll see. And then the other task that I think I'm going to do this week, which I really like the sound of, is to list 20 things you like to do, then answer the questions about them. Does it cost money, or is it free? Is it expensive, or is it cheap? Is it alone, or is it with somebody? Is it physical risk? Is it job related? Is it fast paced? Is it slow? Is it mind, body, or spirit? And then use that list as inspiration to plan an ideal day that you could live in your life now. And then take your ideal life and plan an ideal day in that ideal life, And once you've done that, she challenges you to pull one thing from that day and actually add it into your day and make it a part of a day at some point, even if it's just a really contracted version. The example she gives, you may not be able to move to Rome yet, but still you, in your grungy apartment, you can enjoy a homemade cappuccino and a croissant. And I think she's trying to help you capture the essence, right? She's trying to help us capture the essence of that desire, of that want, and treat ourselves to living it out a little bit. So they're the things I'm going to do this week. I would love to hear how you're doing, how you've been finding it. I think I found it much easier to make a little bit more time for artist dates and for the creative process, and I'm really grateful for that momentum. I've kind of had a few big ahas about the stuff I want to be doing and helped me kind of decide a little bit more the direction I want to go. I feel a bit tricky about this week, to be honest. I really love the idea, but I'm kind of like not sure I'm going to be able to get concrete about this bigger goal. But we'll see. Well, who knows? I will report back next week. I would love to hear how you're doing. What have you been finding? How's your artist dates going? How is your kind of creative check-ins, your creative work? Let me know. It would be great to hang out in the comments. I'll see you soon. Bye.